It all started with a solution culture analysis I did with my 4 brand new employees, 22 years old each, at EDS. My boss had stuck his head in the door and said, "Richard, here are 4 employees, turn them into clones of you." And since I was a programmer at EDS and we were not programming anything because our biggest customer, General Motors, was not ordering for the last 2 years because they sort of hated us and we sort of hated them. And I was new at EDS and I had these 4 new 22-year-olds I was supposed to do something with even though we had no work. So not knowing anything better, I said, "What's the biggest problem with our company?" We didn't know. So we went out and did interviews with our managers to find out what the biggest company of our company was, and we analyzed and categorized those results, and we came up with a failure to sell to General Motors, our biggest customer, as the biggest problem. And then we need to know, okay, now why General Motors is not buying from us. And so we made a 1-question questionnaire. The question was, why are you not buying from us? And we went out to interview GM managers all over GM and asked them why they weren't buying and categorized their answers. And they gave us a really, really clear, honest, accurate portrait. And basically, the culture of our organization was militarist, excessively male, excessively hormonal, and that GM had a lot more PhDs than we had total number of employees, or a lot smarter managers than we had, to be honest. Although corrupt in a way that caused GM to die and go bankrupt 20, 30 years later. So we needed to obviously build a new kind of culture in my company that would entice sales from the GM customer. So we analyzed the problem culture of our firm, and it turned out to be mostly male hormone effects. And then we reversed them to define a female culture, and then we used that to invent a new way of work and a new product of work. The new way of work was making Monday laugh day. No work was allowed, only telling jokes, so that when customers called up, we would be the only happy people that they met at our company. Tuesday and Wednesday were doing all of their week's real work on those 2 days. And we had black eye makeup we put under our eyes whenever we left the office. We were told to bitch about me, what a bad manager I was, and how unhappy people were with my leadership to everybody, because that makes you popular with other managers when your employees are bitching about you, and it makes other managers feel superior to you, so they like you. They even offer to help. And then some other little tricks like that. Thursday was go out to the customer day. No one was allowed in the office. You had to be at a customer site all day. Didn't matter what you were doing, just as long as you were talking to customers. And then Friday was customer in day. We offered artificial intelligence technology seminars for a high price to GM managers, and then saved up the money to give a party at the end of the month to all the people who came to the courses. So we had a hell of a party at the Pontchartrain Hotel, and every month. Then the new product of work was a feminine designed all-day workshop, with the morning being proposed projects by GM engineers, presented by the GM engineers to their upper managers, but organized carefully by us. And then the afternoon being corresponding demonstrations of actual such working systems in competitors, done by vendors in the afternoon. So we had 40 projects presented as proposals by GM's own engineers that had not been approved in the morning, and specially reformatted by us for better presenting. And then in the afternoon, we had corresponding 40 demos from 40 different companies, working systems that actually did what the proposal was that had been rejected at GM. And then we asked in detail around each table for people's reactions and wrote them up in a big 500-page book. And at the end of the 400 people attending the event for each division of General Motors, those 400 got a 500-page book, and then another 1,600 managers in each division got the same 500-page book. We had did this without any permission, without any budget, and I never went to my boss to ask him whether I could do it or not. I just did it. And this was their attempt to solve the biggest problem, and we did it at 3 divisions of GM, Inland and Delco, and finally Truck and Bus, which was the biggest division of GM. And we got a phone call asking me to go to a GERM meeting. I didn't know what that was at Truck and Bus. We sat there silently as EDS guys, the only ones in the room of GM guys, for about an hour and a half. And at the end of the hour and a half, the head of the GERMs said, "Are the EDS guys here?" And we raised our hand, and he said, "You're green?" I said, "I'm green." He said, "You have $17 million and 2 weeks to tell me what you're going to do with it." And that was the first sale to GM by anyone at EDS other than Ross Perot, the chairman of EDS. So that's the power of a femininely designed event. Now, what was that event that made it feminine? Well, I was the only EDS person who gave a presentation, and my presentation lasted an entire minute, 1 minute, 60 seconds. I stood up and I said, my name is Richard Green. I'm from EDS. I'm the organizer of this event. I will be the only EDS person you hear, and I am already 3/4 finished. And that got a standing ovation, which we caught on video. And that was cool. And I said, we're here to listen to you. And too much of the time we haven't been listening to you. But today we're going to listen to you thoroughly. So what we've got is your own engineers proposing projects in the morning for us to learn from and for you to hear afresh in a different context. And then in the afternoon, we got corresponding demonstrations by vendors for each of the morning proposed projects. And then we'll capture your reactions to that and organize and categorize them and print it all up and send it out to you as results. And then that's what we did. So it was a listening day, not a presenting day. And we didn't show stupid PowerPoints of how big our headquarters was and how much like a male genital organ it looked like, and how tall our chairman was and how much like a male genital organ he looked like, and how big, et cetera, and all that little monkey crap. We didn't have any monkey crap in our meeting. It was a feminine meeting, and it worked. So this is what I call the femininity of productivity, which means that because all systems have been designed by males and run by males for eons, most improvements in to make them more feminine. And I've got a whole book superselling with 30 cases of this, so I won't go into all of them now, but there's zillions of examples of me designing feminine cultures and products and having them outdo male ones in the world. The second thing I want to say is there are about 48 confirmed differences between male brains and female brains. And in most corporations, 99.999% of everything is done with those male brain traits. And the female traits are just totally missing. The males can't access them, and the females can't either because they have to be a male in order to get promoted and noticed. And so if you actually design leadership and events and workshops and procedures based on those female brain traits instead of the male brains and blend them with the male traits, you get enormous innovation and productivity. And it's magical. People don't know where it's coming from because you're doing simple stuff. The third one is social neuroscience, the monkey modules in us that make us social. This is the recent research that our brain size is optimized for handling about 125 to 150 people, so-called acquaintance group net, people who know our names and people whose names we know. And anything beyond that we can't manage, and it quickly becomes corrupt. So our brains are optimized for managing that group that we can actually socially relate to, which is about 150 people, 125 to 150 people. We have a number of brain modules for doing that. Mirror neuron group, which allows us to copy behaviors and to guess the emotions that other people have when we see behaviors in them. And it also enables us to predict their own emotions after we do an action, how we're going to feel, and to predict how other people will feel after they receive an action from us. Now, people grow up in different families and different communities and different nations and different various cultures, organizational cultures, where they are around people who don't do one or more, don't use one or more of those modules very well. Now, I've, using the research literature, mapped out about 80 of these modules and can profile how many people use and the way they actually interact if you get a videotape of 10 minutes of them interacting. And showing them the modules they're not using at all, showing them other people using those modules, what it looks like. And these behaviors are completely absent from your life. And, well, this just revolutionizes productivity and impact. The fourth element here is mind extensions, that it isn't what's in our brains that makes us intelligent. It's tools outside of our brains, our so-called extended mind, which determines how intelligent we are.